Yeah, so I think this Balrog fella, one could assume that he was one of Morgoth's Balrogs who, after the War of Wrath, when the Valar came and just destroyed all of like Beleriand, Gondolin, everything,
Yeah.
he went and hid deep in the Misty Mountains and just kind of hibernated for 5,000 years, okay? Like, forgotten by history until Durin the Sixth and his miners, like, in their lust for mithril, like, dug too deep and woke him up, right? And it wasn't a leaf that woke him up. It was just the lust for mithril itself that woke this Balrog.
I mean, look, they alluded to the mithril lust in a very...
Oh, in the Rings of Power? Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But it was still... The actual awakening of the Balrog was so dumb.
Yeah. You know what I always felt though, again, I mean, and I there is no rational thought behind this as far as, like, you know, but I always felt like there was, like, the Balrog was in some kind of battle and basically got buried in the mountain, you know. But again, this is like 7-year-old me first hearing about the Balrog, you know, and you know, kind of like, how did
it might have been that way because, I mean, whether he just like ran away and hid there or whether he was buried there, I don't think it's ever like explicitly explained. He could have easily been buried there because the wrath of the Valar, like, just completely transformed that whole continent, and part of it was sunk, and, you know, the whole thing looked different after the War of Wrath, and so I'm sure, like, you know, mountains were caving in and all kinds of, like, tectonic plates were in motion and stuff, so he could have been buried.
That's kind of how I always felt, like, like, you know how, like, sometimes people will find the fish, like, it looks like the top of a mountain was underwater, and they're like,
oh, right, yeah.
You know,
you find like plankton fossils in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, the Balrog's been depicted as this feral, this almost animalistic kind of thing, like this demon that has no real, like animal intelligence. I don't know how best to describe it. Like,
absolutely, I think there's something there. Were you going to make a point about that, or just point it out?
No, I mean, we can discuss it, but like I said, it just feels like there should be more intelligence behind.
Exactly. No, I was thinking the same thing, and I think there's actually something really bizarre about that, because one would expect not only is he or it a Maiar spirit, but the Balrog has a human form, and like, unlike a spider, you know, unlike Ungoliant. Well, I guess Ungoliant talks. Shelob, you know, not one to talk very much. Right. But if Ungoliant the spider could talk, you'd think maybe Shelob could talk too.
Yeah.
But you'd think so these spider-like creatures can talk, but
look, man, if the spiders in Mirkwood could talk,
right? The spiders in Mirkwood can talk.
Which are Shelob's offspring. You know what I'm saying?
Here's this anthropomorphic, like, Maiar Balrog who doesn't say a word. And actually, Tolkien points it out. Like, oops, sorry. Can I let me direct you to? I did a little bit of research,
okay,
and found in Tolkien's letters. He actually drew attention to this. I don't know if you knew this, but in the 1950s, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings was going to be an animated film in the 50s, even before the Bakshi stuff.
Right.
And there was a treatment written by this guy named Zimmerman. And so Tolkien and this guy Zimmerman, or maybe it's the agent of Zimmerman, and Tolkien were in correspondence. So in this treatment, the script that this Zimmerman guy wrote, the Balrog speaks. And so this line is from his letters where he's writing back to these people after having read this script. And the whole letter is just him complaining about the script. Basically ripping the script apart and saying, no, this is wrong, this sucks. And interestingly enough, he's extremely critical, and he wants things to be as close to his own vision as possible, which
Right,
is
right.
why I know that he would absolutely hate our favorite thing, Rings of Power. So
Right.
that stopped. I can't really hear it. Okay. So he tells this Zimmerman guy, he says, the Balrog never speaks or makes any vocal sound at all. Above all, he does not laugh or sneer. Zimmerman may think he knows more about Balrogs than I do, but he cannot expect me to agree with him.
Okay.
So snap. So he's very explicit that the Balrog, this Balrog anyway, never speaks or makes any vocal sound at all, which is very strange. You'd think that being such a powerful entity and an ancient spirit that he would have learned how to freaking talk.
Yeah, like communicate with somehow. But I mean, like any vocal sound though. So I mean, maybe it is like a guttural kind of,
or maybe
roar,
he speaks through telepathy.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty much. I bet he just lets his action speak.
Right.
No, but did you find anything else like this? Because I'm curious to see that. I mean, look now. I mean, this would make sense.
Well, the other thing is like it's a cinder. The word Balrog is Sindarin, meaning demon of might. So it never says demon of intelligence. It's just a demon of might. Maybe it just has like this visceral or physical power.
Right.
But it's not like a sentient power. It's just it's like a brute force. That's how I see.
But again, what's interesting to me is like that. Okay, this is like a Maiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of, you like, I would always think of Maiar as being like these beings, like these perfect beings.
They're angelic.
Right. But now you've got like how were they corrupted? So like these Maiar, like they had to been like, okay, we're, I mean, for lack of a better word, like lobotomized Maiar that Melkor kind of twisted to his own.
So they're just like all the Valar and Maiar. They're older than all the firstborn. They're old. They're just created at the beginning of time. So Balrogs were originally Ainur, created by Iluvatar, probably those who joined Melkor during his dissonance in the music of the Ainur. So right in the beginning of time, before the earth was even created. After entering Ea, they were Maiar, lesser spirits at the service of the Valar. And then in the Valquenta, I'm quoting the Valquenta, it says, of the Maiar, many were drawn to Melkor's splendor in the days of his greatness and remained in that allegiance down into his darkness. And others he corrupted afterwards to his service with lies and treacherous gifts. Dreadful among these spirits were the Valarakar, the scourges of fire that in Middle Earth were called the Balrogs, demons of terror. So they were there at the very beginning, and they kind of were drawn to Melkor, and then as Melkor fell and became like a Dark Lord, they just followed him into that path. Huh. They took the forms of demons with hearts of fire and whips of flame. Melkor gathered them about him after the fall of the two lamps, and they dwelt in Utumno. When this fortress was destroyed by the Valar, they fled to the west and hid in the pits of Angband, awaiting their master's return. When Morgoth and Ungoliant escaped from Valinor many years later with the Silmarils, the Balrogs were still awaiting their master in Angband. After Ungoliant threatened Morgoth, his cry was heard by them. The Balrogs issued from their hiding place and traveled to Lamoth like a tempest of fire. With their whips, they destroyed Ungoliant's webs and made her take flight. So actually, at the very beginning, after Ungoliant and Melkor or Morgoth took the jewels and came back to Middle Earth, Ungoliant turned on Morgoth and was like, "I will get you now." And the Balrogs were, and
I'm
Morgoth
so hungry.
Morgoth put out his bat signal, and all the Balrogs were like, "Oh, Morgoth, Melkor's in trouble," and they drove Ungoliant away. So they've been in league with that side, loyal to Morgoth since time immemorial.
Huh.
And I guess are wont to hide in pit-like places because they were like kind of hiding in Angband and in Utumno. And so maybe this Balrog was just kind of true to his nature. The Durin's Bane Balrog was hiding in those pits under Moria, thinking, "Oh, maybe someday Melkor, he's still waiting for Melkor." It reminds me of like World War II,
Yeah.
like guys who are like hiding in the jungle, like, someday the Emperor
Man,
will
it's like
return.
it's like 1997. A guy comes out, I'm gonna get you. Like with this show, I'm trying to like kind of like, this is what I've read, and I want to discuss it.
Right, yeah. No, it's good to know
Obviously,
these
it's
things.
been discussed before.
Well,
before this.
right. But some things are strange, like, and some things have not been like kind of figured out. And Tolkien, it seems, was intentionally vague about a lot of these things, like whether or not a Balrog had wings. Like he never explicitly says they had wings.
It's like the darkness spread like wings.
Oh, right, that's what it was.
Like and then again,
he uses it more metaphorically.
Yeah, but it said from cave to cave, and or from the cave walls, but the Balrog, from what I've researched in Jackson's movie, the Balrog's like 25 feet high or something like that.
Right.
In real life, like in real life, in the book, the Balrog is probably 8 to 12 feet. It wasn't
right. It only says just the size of a big man.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, so you're right. Like in Jackson, he has this Balrog that seems almost Godzilla-esque.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
you know what I mean? But I've seen more imagery that I think is probably a little bit more accurate. Like this is an artist, I can't remember the name, but this painting's called The Flame of Udun.
Yeah.
And this is like this guy, he just looks like a demon human form figure.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that he doesn't talk and he just looks badass makes him all the more scary. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, but I would think that there would be a little bit more fallen angel angelic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. Like I don't want to say pretty or whatever. I mean that's not it. I mean they obviously look like demons. I mean because they've. I mean if Sauron can't. Kind of like he cannot ever take a fair guy's right. Where they're like, oh, look at that good looking chap over there. It's like it's like that's Sauron. I can tell because he's ugly.
Right.
But the Balrogs, like again, it just seems like.
Let me embiggen this a little bit. Yeah.
But even this, like there was like darkness emanating from it, but he obviously couldn't fly because he fell down the pit. Like you figure at one point those wings would have come in handy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'm gonna fly.
Right. I like this version of him too, though, because he's more human, like proportions.
Yeah, he's still huge though.
He's a little bit right. He's big, but larger than human. But I think Tolkien said somewhere that they're like twice the size of humans. But anyway,
right.
And behind him, there's like this weird network of things that look like both shadows and flames.
Yeah.
In a spiral swirl thing, which could be mistaken for wings, but maybe aren't wings. And I think this is it's a nice. Oh wow, that is big. I actually didn't even see the Gandalf mid-bridge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you look
okay,
at
so that's maybe
it's
maybe a little bit bigger than
Gandalf. It's like that's kind of like Melkor size right there. I got to figure.
Right.
I mean, because Melkor is huge.
Yeah, right? So that's much bigger than I imagined.
I mean, but if you take that, shrink it down like to like roughly half of where it is,
he looks about right.
Right.
Other than his giant size.
Because the other thing too is like it's like how is something that big going to like when Gandalf's fighting in the chamber of Marzabul, right?
Mm.
Is it Mazarbul?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's holding the door. The door didn't set like when you put the spell of closing on the door.
Yeah.
The Balrog was on the other side, and it wasn't like it's like I mean, it wasn't a huge chamber, it was like a little anti-chamber, right?
Yeah.
So it would be probably like this. I would say the height of a troll, maybe but with way more ancient powers, and way more.
Right. I think that the fact that we in the 21st century have access to all this CGI makes filmmakers always go for the most like sensational visually option, which isn't necessarily always, in my view, the most artistic option, because you could have just a human-sized, almost human-looking person, and as long as they just have such gravitas and menacing quality, they could be a great Balrog.
You know, they could have had Andy Serkis play the Balrog. You know? I mean, look, the Balrog looked awesome. I mean, like let's face it. Like when we saw the Balrog in the movie theater,
right? No, I wasn't really complaining.
Pretty cool, you know. But again, going back and doing a deep dive read and stuff like that, it's kind of like, oh well. I mean, and in fairness, Bakshi did the same thing. I mean, you ever see the Bakshi Balrog?
Yeah.
It looked really cool, but it looked like, you know, like, oh, look, it's a lion. Right. It's like a lion.
Right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, of course, he's been mocked online as being like the unscary Balrog.
It still looks cool, man.
No, I think he does.
Yeah.
But it's just like this, what is it? Let me see. Hold on.
It's all the rotoscoping that they did.
Yeah, they did quite a bit of rotoscoping. Right here. Just, the wings just look like, I mean, I'm actually fine with it, but the Balrog wings look like, wire, like fabric over a wire frame, fabric over a wire frame and then rotoscoped.
Yeah.
Like
which
they don't
is probably
look,
what it was.
Yeah. But I don't have a problem with it. Like that right there. It's like, anyway.
Like I said, I still like.
But a lion with wings. What's that in D&D? Like a hippogriff or a basilisk or a manticore?
Manticore. Kind of a manticore.
Yeah, he's more of a manticore.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still. I mean, look.
No, like I said, I'm very forgiving. I don't have any problem with any of these adaptations. So much.
In 1978, 1979, that was like, oh my God, it's a Balrog. This is crazy looking.
It's gonna blow kids' minds, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, size-wise, he looks about right. You know,
what I'm talking closer to right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that looks really good.
Big, but it's like that, you know. But that looks about where it should be to me, where like it's not. This huge kind of.
If I was doing it, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
But now, this huge one-side thing. But now, look, use your wings, buddy. Use your wings.
I guess his wings aren't working.
But we'll whip Gandalf.
They're like penguin wings. They don't really work for flight.
Yeah. It's just they're there for show.
They're there for show.
Beautiful plumage.
They're coming. But if you could take. Like that size of if you could take that Balrog size, you could take this size relative to Gandalf, which is just, twice the size maybe of Gandalf.
Yeah.
And then you make him look like that in terms of, not so much a lion, but more of a demon human.
Yeah.
And then do the thing, instead of the wings, you do the swirly swirls with the kind of.
Yeah.
The flames and shadows swirling around in the background. That's kind of how I see him.
Because they said that when they fell into the lake at the end of their fall, the Balrog turned into a thing of slime.
Right.
It was all of a sudden it's so I mean it wasn't like it's like slime with wings. It's like all of a sudden its
flame
kind of
was quenched.
Its flame was quenched, but it was still like slimy and kind of adapted to the environment that it was in.
He became a thing of slime, but that aspect of being like a thing of might was still there in the sense that he became like almost like a boa. I kind of saw him as like a boa constrictor, like just muscle that was slimy and just wouldn't let go. And
and then once they got out onto the Zergziegel.
Yep, the peak of Zergziegel.
Yeah, he burst into flame once he saw saw the sun and blah blah blah. Like, oh, I'm back, and then Gandalf had to throw him down.
Right. Well, does it ever say that a dragon is a Maiar?
No, I don't.
But they're equivalent. Tolkien's pretty explicit there. Actually, in early, like in the War of Jewels or whatever, the dragons are the steeds of the Balrogs.
Right.
So that's crazy. Can you imagine seeing a dragon or having to fight not just a Balrog, but a Balrog riding a dragon, like a mounted Balrog?
You know that sounds like like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna get a Balrog. Oh yeah, well I'm gonna get a Balrog with a dragon. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get a Balrog with a dragon and two
Well,
dragons.
that's the other thing. If Balrogs had wings, why would they be riding dragons? Like the
Yeah, I don't think they
dragons,
had again.
right?
I don't think they
Dragons
had
had
wings.
wings. That's
Yeah,
probably why some legends or some people think that they have wings is because they used to ride dragons, which have wings.
right. But also, I mean, there is the smoke like wing. Like again,
Yeah,
it's described in the chapter
there's
where
a
like
subtle hint that there's a wing. There's a wing like unfolding of smoke and fire going on,
right.
or shadow.
But yeah, but it's never clear, and the fact that it the again they're depicted as flying and these in the
Mm-hmm.
movies, but it never was stated that the Balrog flew, and
Right,
like why would breaking the bridge like do anything against the Balrog? I mean, it's just like we got to get out of here. You know what I'm talking about?
right,
Like
right.
I think
Well, I think
Gandalf destroying the bridge of Khazad-Dum like would really like it's like oh well now you guys can't get back and now these orcs are trapped over here. All right, great, but the Balrog's still going to jump over and
right.
chase down the company. So yeah, I don't think it had wings.
Yeah, that makes sense. But Tolkien doesn't describe. I mean, the fact that he doesn't give him a name. I mean, think about it. Tolkien gives every freaking thing a name. Sometimes he
Yeah,
gives things several names, and he never really
right.
gives the Balrog a name. And
But
he never really describes it in much detail like he normally does. So I think he just like he's like trying to be intentionally vague about the Balrog, and it
well,
kind of leaves us to fill in the gaps.
they did give a name. I mean, it's Durin's Bane.
Right. But
You
but
know,
but he has no name like
DB,
Gothmog or
like all his friends call him DB though.
DB.
DB, hey DB.
But it leaves us to kind of wonder, and I always wondered, like, what? I mean, first of all, he was slumbering, he's hibernating for 5,000 years,
Right. He's
and then Durin woke him up, and that didn't end well, and then he kind of lurked around for 500 more years or so,
yeah,
and
and he's
then
like, yeah, nothing's going on. I might as well take a nap.
and then here comes some new colonizers. Every once in a while, he gets interrupted by a dwarf.
Yeah,
He's
he
in
probably
danger of
doesn't
being stepped on by a
like
dwarf.
a dwarf. He probably doesn't like dwarves very much. It's probably like, oh,
Yeah, he's like, oh, here's another dwarf to disturb me.
so the argument could be made that he could give a shit about like a pebble falling down a well, but he heard damn Gimli's lament
Yes. And he's
and
like, oh,
woke up.
another dwarf.
Dwarf,
Another.
what the? I thought I got rid of all you little bastards.